So, you want to go to war with the humans? Supreme Commander Zixtal asked, his four eyes blinking in rapid succession as he studied the eager young drachnid before him. The vermilion scales of the junior officer practically glowed with enthusiasm. Yes, sir. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Their territory is resource-rich, and their military capabilities are laughable compared to the might of the Galactic Empire. Lieutenant Kurthak straightened his ceremonial armor, clearly proud of his strategic assessment. Zixtal leaned back in his hover chair, his ancient scales creaking slightly as he shifted. The weathered commander's office aboard the Imperial flagship Eternal Dawn suddenly felt very small, despite its grandiose dimensions. He'd seen that same sparkle of anticipated conquest in countless young officers' eyes over his 3 centuries of service. Usually he'd simply approve their battle plans and send them on their way to glory. But humans? Oh no. This required a different approach. Tell me, Lieutenant, Zixtal began, his voice carrying the weight of someone who'd seen far too much. Have you ever heard of the Glasgow Kiss? Kurthak's antenna twitched in confusion. The... what, sir? Sit down, youngling. Let me tell you about the last time someone declared war on humanity. Perhaps then you'll understand why we have a standing order to avoid hostile engagement with Earth at all costs. The commander's upper right eye twitched. It's also why we had to completely redesign our escape pod protocols. Kurthak settled into the visitor's chair, his earlier bravado slightly dimmed by his superior's tone. But sir, our intelligence reports are incomplete, Zixtal cut him off. Let me tell you about the Mextali campaign of 2187. I was there, you see, a young officer, much like yourself, serving aboard our most advanced dreadnought. The commander's voice took on a distant quality, as if he were seeing the events unfold before him once again. The Mextali Collective thought exactly as you do now. They saw Earth's relatively primitive faster-than-light drives, their handful of colonies, their projectile-based weapons. He chittered softly. They thought it would be an easy conquest. What happened, sir? The humans happened, Lieutenant. The humans happened in ways that defied every military doctrine we'd established over 10,000 years of interstellar warfare. Zixtal's scales rippled with remembered anxiety. Did you know humans are technically classified as pursuit predators? Kurthak nodded impatiently. Yes, sir. Endurance hunters from a death world. But surely... Let me finish. What the classification fails to mention is their absolutely insane approach to everything. The Mextali fleet made first contact by destroying a small Earth orbital station. Standard procedure, right? Show of force, establish dominance. The commander's lower mandibles clicked in agitation. The humans responded by ramming their damaged station into the Mextali flagship. But that's suicide, Kurthak protested. Exactly. And that was just the beginning. The humans have this concept called spite. Are you familiar with it? The lieutenant shook his head. It's the willingness, no, the drive, to harm oneself if it means causing greater harm to an enemy. The entire species seems to possess it in abundance. Zixtal pulled up a holographic display showing footage from the war. Watch this. The projection showed a massive Mextali cruiser bearing down on what appeared to be a much smaller human vessel. The human ship was clearly outgunned, its shields failing. Standard tactical doctrine would dictate a retreat here, yes? Zixtal asked. Of course, sir. The human vessel had no chance of victory. Watch what they did instead. In the hologram, the human ship suddenly accelerated toward the cruiser. Warning indicators flashed across the display as the smaller vessel's reactor went critical. The human ship exploded mere meters from the cruiser's shields. The combined force of the blast and the faster-than-light wake tearing a hole through the larger vessel's defenses. They weaponized their own death, Kurthak whispered, his antenna drooping. Oh, that's not even the clever part, Zixtal laughed darkly. The clever part was that the ship's crew had already evacuated in modified torpedo casings. They surfed the explosion into the cruiser's hull breach, boarded the vessel, and took it over from the inside. The commander shifted again, his scales making that uncomfortable creaking sound. Do you know what the humans called this maneuver? A pro-gamer move. They turned it into a standard tactic. Called it the Uno reverse card protocol. Kurthak's mandibles worked silently for a moment. Surely this was an isolated incident. Ha! If only. Let me tell you about their marines. The Mextali made the mistake of attempting a ground invasion of one of their colonies. Mars, I think it was called. They thought the humans would be at a disadvantage in the low atmosphere and gravity. The commander pulled up another recording. This is from a Mextali helmet cam. The footage showed a squad of heavily armed Mextali warriors advancing through a Martian dome complex. Suddenly, from overhead came a battle cry that made Krothak's scales stand on end. "Leroy Jenkins!" The recording dissolved into chaos as human soldiers dropped from maintenance shafts, wielding what appeared to be mining tools. "Are those primitive excavation implements?" Krothak asked, horrified. Plasma-powered mining hammers, to be precise. The humans discovered they could overcharge them to punch through our most advanced armor. They called it getting bonked. Their engineers started manufacturing them specifically as weapons, complete with little smiley faces etched into the hammerheads. Zixtal's eyes all focused on the increasingly uncomfortable lieutenant. But here's the real kicker. Remember how I mentioned spite? The humans never, ever forgot that first orbital station. They named their new hammer weapons Station's Revenge. Every single one had the name and service number of a crew member who died in that initial attack. The commander stood, his hover chair whirring softly as he moved to look out the viewport at the stars beyond. "The war lasted 6 standard months. Do you know why it ended?" Krothak shook his head mutely. "Because the humans started having fun." Zixtal's voice carried a note of existential dread. They turned the whole thing into what they called a speedrunning competition. Different units competed to see who could capture Mextali vessels and bases the fastest, using increasingly bizarre and horrifying methods. He turned back to face the lieutenant. The final straw came when they started publishing tutorials. Actual educational videos on the most efficient ways to take over our most advanced warships, complete with commentary and blooper reels. The Mextali surrendered after a team of human streamers captured their flagship using nothing but construction equipment and something called POG energy. Krothak's scales had lost several shades of their vibrant color. But our current technology is irrelevant," Zixtal cut him off. "Do you know what the humans are doing with their primitive technology right now? They're purposely holding themselves back, running simulations they call video games to theorycraft the most absurd ways to win conflicts. Their entire younger generation treats warfare like a puzzle to be solved in the most entertaining way possible." The commander settled back into his chair with a heavy sigh. "The day they decide to actually advance their military technology to our level is the day I retire to the furthest, most isolated world I can find. Because they won't stop at matching us, oh no. They'll take our technology and do things with it that violate not just military doctrine, but possibly several laws of physics." He fixed all 4 eyes on Krothak. "Did you know they have a betting pool going? Their odds makers are taking bets on which galactic power will be foolish enough to attack them next. They call it the Space Darwin Awards." Krothak stood on shaky legs. I think I need to revise my strategic assessment, sir." "Wise choice, Lieutenant. Oh, and one more thing." Zixtal's voice stopped the young officer at the door. "If you ever hear a human say, 'Hold my beer,' or 'Watch this,' I suggest you evacuate the star system immediately. That's not tactical hyperbole, by the way. It's in the official Imperial military doctrine now, right between proper shield harmonics and retreat protocols." As the thoroughly shaken lieutenant left his office, Zixtal turned back to the viewport, absent-mindedly rubbing the scar where his 5th eye used to be. A souvenir from a human marine who'd decided to demonstrate something called a Glasgow kiss during a diplomatic meeting. The commander pulled up the human betting odds on his private terminal. The Drachnid Empire's chances of initiating conflict had just dropped significantly. He allowed himself a small smile as he placed his own anonymous bet. After all, he hadn't survived 3 centuries of military service without learning to hedge his bets. Somewhere on Earth, a bookmaker noted the unusual alien transaction and adjusted the odds accordingly. In the same building, a team of military speedrunners added another potential scenario to their simulation database, complete with projected statistics for completion time and style points. The universe, as always, continued to learn the hard way that humans were not to be fucked with. They were having far too much fun for that. 2 solar cycles after Lieutenant Krothak's enlightening conversation with Supreme Commander Zixtal, the Galactic Empire faced an unprecedented crisis. Humans had gotten bored. "They're doing what?" Zixtal's 4 eyes blinked asynchronously, a sure sign of severe stress. Admiral Vexna, his newly appointed intelligence chief, fidgeted with her data slate. "They're requesting permission to attack us, sir." "Permission to attack us." Each word dropped from the commander's mandibles like a lead weight. "Explain." "Well, sir, apparently their speedrunning community has exhausted all possible scenarios in their simulations. They've formally petitioned their government to arrange what they're calling a..." She checked her notes. Friendly scrimmage with the Empire. Zixtal's hoverchair whirred as he paced the command deck of the Eternal Dawn. Define friendly scrimmage. As far as we can tell, they want to engage in limited military exercises with actual stakes, but no permanent consequences. They've even drafted a complete rule set. Vexna's antenna twitched as she read further. They're calling it Space War, Pro League Season 1. The commander stopped pacing. They want to turn interstellar warfare into a sport? Yes, sir. Complete with commentators, live streams, and something called microtransactions. They're projecting viewership in the trillions. And if we refuse? Vexna's scales paled slightly. They said, and I quote, "That's cool, we'll just keep theory crafting until someone else wants to play." Then they sent us footage of their latest simulation exercises. She projected a hologram that made Zixtal's missing fifth eye throb in phantom pain. The display showed a human vessel performing what could only be described as physically improbable maneuvers, using what appeared to be... Is that ship using controlled hull breaches for propulsion? Yes, sir. They're calling it rocket jumping. Apparently, it's an old-school gaming strat. Vexna looked like she wished she understood less of what she was reporting. They've also developed something called quick save bombing, which involves... Actually, I don't think I should explain that one. The physics department is still in therapy. Zixtal settled back into his chair, all four eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the Empire's border with human space. Do we have any choice? Well, sir, the diplomatic corps suggests that controlled engagement might be preferable to waiting until the humans decide to... How did they put it? Speed-run the game on their own terms. The commander chittered softly. Get me a direct line to their military command. And broadcast throughout the fleet. Everyone needs to hear this. Moments later, the holographic image of human Admiral Sarah Chen appeared, grinning in a way that made Zixtal's carapace itch. Supreme Commander, glad you called. Did you get our proposal? Admiral Chen, Zixtal began carefully. Your request for a friendly scrimmage has been received. However, I have concerns. Totally understandable. That's why we've prepared a comprehensive rule set. No permanent damage to capital ships, no civilian casualties, and all boarding actions have to be performed using non-lethal methods. Her grin widened. We've even developed a scoring system. A scoring system, Zixtal repeated flatly. Oh yes, points for style, efficiency, and innovation. We're particularly excited about the trick shot bonus multiplier. She gestured off-screen. Want to see the prototype for our new non-lethal boarding pods? We based them on this old game called Portal. Before Zixtal could decline, a video played showing what appeared to be a human marine using some form of localized space-time distortion to... Yes, that definitely violated several laws of physics. That's impossible, Vexna whispered. Nah, just really difficult, Admiral Chen replied cheerfully. Took us forever to get the timing right. But check this out. We can chain them together for what we're calling a momentum transfer combo. The video showed a squad of Marines performing what could only be described as aerial ballet through the void of space, using linked portals to launch themselves at velocities that made Zixtal's tactical computer scream in protest. The best part? All non-lethal. The worst you'll get is some mild gravitational disorientation and maybe a bit of timeline vertigo. Nothing a good nap won't fix. Zixtal looked at his intelligence chief, who was still trying to process how human Marines were treating the fabric of space-time like a playground. He looked at his tactical display, which was attempting to calculate trajectories for the portal-jumping Marines and displaying increasingly distressed error messages. Finally, he looked back at Admiral Chen's eager expression. If, and I stress if, we were to agree to this exhibition, what exactly would be the objective? Simple. Each side gets points for capturing objectives, performing stylish maneuvers, and innovating new tactics. We've even set up brackets for different ship classes. Capital ships are worth more points, obviously, but smaller vessels get agility bonuses. She paused, then added, Oh, and we're thinking of adding a capture the flag mode. Literally, with actual flags. Old school, you know? Zixtal felt a headache building in all four of his eye clusters. And the alternative is waiting until your species gets bored enough to try these tactics without our cooperation? Pretty much. We've got some really interesting theories about using synchronized reactor hiccups to create tactical jazz hands, but we haven't tested them yet. Probably safer to try them out in a controlled environment, right? The commander looked at his senior staff. Every single one of them nodded vigorously. The message was clear. Better to engage the humans on their terms than wait for them to decide the rules of engagement. Very well, Admiral. The Galactic Empire accepts your proposal for Space War, Pro League Season 1. Zixtal couldn't believe he was saying these words. Send us the complete rule set and we'll begin preparations. Excellent. Admiral Chen's smile somehow got even wider. Oh, and one more thing. We're thinking of adding a Battle Royale mode for Season 2. How do you feel about zero-G mech suits? As the transmission ended, Zixtal turned to his intelligence chief. Vexna, update the Imperial military doctrine. Add a new primary directive. Never, ever let humans get bored. Already done, sir. Also, she hesitated. The betting pools have opened for the first match. The humans are offering very favorable odds for Empire victories. Zixtal considered this for a moment. Put my retirement fund on the humans. All of it. Sir? Trust me, Vexna. If there's one thing I've learned about humans, it's that they're at their most dangerous when they're having fun. He gestured at the tactical display, where simulated portal-jumping Marines were still causing his computer to have what appeared to be a mathematical nervous breakdown. And they're about to have a lot of fun. Somewhere in Earth space, a team of engineers was putting the finishing touches on what they called a gravity bungee jumping platform. In a nearby testing facility, Marine recruiters were evaluating candidates based on their ability to quote ancient internet memes while performing complex spatial maneuvers. And in a secret laboratory, a group of scientists was trying to figure out if they could teach an AI to play something called Snake, using actual space serpents. The universe collectively held its breath, wondering what humans would come up with next. The only certainty was that it would be spectacular, probably impossible, and definitely worth watching. After all, Season 1 was about to begin. The inaugural match of Space War Pro League Season 1 began exactly how Supreme Commander Zixtal feared it would, with humans ignoring the laws of physics in increasingly creative ways. They can't... What am I even looking at? Admiral Vexna's professional composure finally cracked as she watched the main view screen of the Eternal Dawn. According to the human commentators, Zixtal replied wearily, that's something called a speedrun strat, combined with sequence breaking. Apparently they're exploiting a quirk in our shield harmonics. On the screen, a human corvette was performing what could only be described as a dance routine through the Empire's defensive line. Each twist and turn of the small vessel created cascading patterns in the capital ship's shield grids, forming what looked suspiciously like an ancient human entertainment called a disco ball. But why? Vexna's antennae were practically tied in knots. If I understand their scoring system correctly, they're farming style points before attempting the actual objective. Zixtal had spent the last week studying human gaming terminology. He was pretty sure it had given him an ulcer in all three of his stomachs. The tactical channel crackled to life with the voice of the human team's captain. Okay, everyone. Shield surf setup complete. Time for the main event. Cowabunga it is. Oh no, Zixtal muttered. Everyone brace for... He never finished the sentence. The human corvette suddenly accelerated, using the interlocking shield patterns as some sort of cosmic half-pipe. The resulting energy cascade created a temporary wormhole, through which shot a pizza delivery vehicle? Did they just... Vexna began. Weaponize casual dining, yes. Zixtal watched as the delivery vehicle, somehow maintaining perfect temperature control for its cargo, docked with the Empire's flagship. And if I'm reading these scoring calculations correctly, they just set a new speed record for infiltration, while simultaneously qualifying for the food service bonus multiplier. The command deck's doors slid open to reveal a human in what appeared to be a food service uniform, carrying an insulated bag. Special delivery for Supreme Commander Zixtal? One large pepperoni with extra cheese? How did you even get through our security? Vexna demanded. Ma'am, I've been delivering pizzas in Chicago for 3 years. Your security grid's got nothing on trying to find parking during a Cubs game. The delivery person set the box down and pulled out a payment terminal. That'll be 47.99 credits, and please remember, if your pizza isn't delivered through a tactically generated wormhole in 30 minutes or less, it's free. Zixtal silently transferred the credits, including a generous tip. He'd learned early on that it was better not to question human logistics chains. Besides, he had to admit, the pizza smelled amazing. Admiral Chen is hailing us, a communications officer reported. The human admiral's familiar grin filled the main screen. So, what did you think of our new delivery system? We're calling it Operation Pizza Time. The boys in R&D have been dying to try it out. You turned an interstellar war game into a food delivery service, Zixtal stated flatly. Multitasking. Plus, we got bonus points for civil services integration. Did you know your shield grid harmonics are a perfect match for maintaining optimal pizza temperature? We're thinking of franchising. Before Zixtal could formulate a response to that terrifying proposition, multiple alerts began blaring across the tactical display. Sir! Vexna's professional demeanor reasserted itself. We're detecting multiple boarders throughout the fleet. They're using the pizza delivery wormholes as insertion points. Admiral Chen's grin somehow got even wider. Remember those non-lethal boarding pods we mentioned? Turns out they fit perfectly in pizza boxes. We call it the Trojan Special. The tactical display dissolved into chaos as human Marines emerged from pizza boxes across the fleet, armed with what appeared to be... Are those modified paintball guns? Vextal asked, resignation heavy in his voice. With special zero-G paint formulated to taste like marinara sauce. Chen confirmed cheerfully. Don't worry, it's completely food-safe and biodegradable. We had to get health department approval for the Competitive Eating League crossover event next month. Zixtal watched as his mighty fleet was systematically disabled by Marines wielding sauce-based weapons, all while maintaining perfect form for the style point multipliers. The scoreboard in the corner of his display was reaching numbers he hadn't previously known existed. Current standing is Empire, 12,000 points for excellent defensive formations, Chen narrated. And Humanity, 1.2 million points plus bonuses for thinking outside the pizza box, successful food service integration, and establishing a new takeout delivery route in an emerging market. You turned our military exercise into a business expansion opportunity, Vexna realized, horror and admiration warring in her voice. Efficiency, Chen beamed. By the way, we're offering franchise opportunities for combined military pizzeria operations. Very reasonable rates, and the training program includes both tactical combat and proper dough-tossing techniques. Zixtal looked at his pizza, then at his partially sauce-covered fleet, and finally at his tactical display, which was now showing advertisements for Wormhole Warriors Pizza, where every slice is a victory. Admiral Chen, he said carefully, I believe we need to discuss modification of the rule set before the next match. Oh, definitely. We've got some great ideas for the dessert course. Ever heard of tactical ice cream delivery drones? As the human admiral launched into an enthusiastic explanation of weaponized confectionery, Zixtal turned to his intelligence chief. Vexna, update the military doctrine again. Add a note. Never underestimate human ability to combine combat, commerce, and cuisine. Already done, sir. Also, she hesitated. The franchise applications are starting to come in. Apparently, several of our crew members are interested in the pizza combat training program. Zixtal took a bite of his perfectly temperature-maintained pizza and watched as human Marines performed synchronized zero-G maneuvers while distributing garlic bread throughout his fleet. Process the applications, he sighed, and see if we can get a bulk discount on the training courses. Something tells me this is just the beginning. Somewhere on Earth, a team of culinary combat specialists was developing what they called tactical tiramisu deployment systems. In orbital stations across human space, Marines were practicing pizza dough tossing in variable gravity conditions. And in a secret research facility, scientists were trying to determine if they could achieve faster-than-light travel using the power of perfectly baked cheese. The universe, meanwhile, began updating its food delivery apps to include combat rating systems. After all, if you're going to order takeout, it might as well come with a side of tactical excellence. 3 weeks into Space War, Pro League Season 1, Supreme Commander Zixtal found himself doing something he'd never imagined possible, explaining to the Imperial High Council why his fleet had been converted into what humans called a theme park. Let me understand this correctly. High Counselor Drekthar's hologram loomed over the command deck. All 6 of his eyes narrowed in confusion. The humans have turned the Eternal Dawn into an entertainment facility? A hybrid recreational combat training center, according to their proposal. Zixtal corrected, trying to maintain his dignity despite the roller coaster track now clearly visible through the bridge viewport. They're calling it Space Force Six Flags. And you allowed this? They offered an extremely competitive revenue-sharing agreement, Admiral Vexna chimed in, reviewing the contracts on her data slate. Plus, we're getting priority access to their new Extreme Tourism Certification Program. On cue, a group of human civilians shot past the viewport, riding what appeared to be modified escape pods through a series of gravitational loops. Their screams of terror and delight echoed through the ship's comm system. That's the new quantum plunge attraction, Zixtal explained wearily. It uses our artificial gravity generators to simulate the experience of falling into a black hole, but with, and I quote, more loop-de-loops and a gift shop at the end. Drekthar's hologram flickered as he processed this information. And this benefits our military how, exactly? Well, according to Admiral Chen, yeet! A human voice interrupted as another modified pod shot past, this one trailing sparklers and what appeared to be marketing pamphlets. According to Admiral Chen, Zixtal continued, pretending not to notice. It's combining tactical training with public relations and revenue generation. The humans are calling it synergistic entertainment warfare. The tactical display lit up with a new set of statistics. Vexna read them aloud. Current daily attendance, 50,000 visitors. Revenue, 2.3 million credits. Training efficiency, up 45%. Morale, significantly improved, especially since they added the cotton candy station to the combat simulation deck. Cotton candy? Drekthar's confusion deepened. A type of spun sugar confection that they've somehow weaponized into a zero-G obstacle course medium, Zixtal explained. It's actually proven quite effective for stealth training, something about the sugar crystals interfering with sensor arrays. Another group of pods zipped past, these ones modified to look like ancient Earth spacecraft called X-Wings. Their occupants were engaged in what the humans called a cosplay combat scenario. "The Empire strikes back!" one of them yelled, triggering a groan from the actual Imperial officers on deck. "Oh yes," Vexna added. "We're also hosting something called a sci-fi convention next week. Apparently it's some sort of cultural exchange program where humans dress up as fictional space empires while touring an actual space empire. The irony is intentional, we think." Drekthar's hologram pulsed with barely contained bewilderment. "And our crews are participating in this?" "Enthusiastically," Zixtal confirmed. "We've had to establish a waiting list for the Space Pirate Adventure Experience training program. Something about the combination of zero-G parkour and theatrical combat really appeals to our younger officers." "Speaking of which," Vexna interrupted, "the humans are requesting permission to install something called a laser tag arena in the auxiliary hangar bay. They say it's for tactical training purposes, but the proposal includes something called a disco ball and several fog machines." Before Drekthar could respond, Admiral Chen's hologram materialized beside his, sporting what appeared to be a top hat with built-in propulsion systems. "Supreme Commander, High Counselor, just wanted to give you a heads up about our next attraction. We're calling it Pirates of the Event Horizon. Think space pirates meet quantum physics with a dash of musical theater." "Musical theater." Drekthar's voice had risen several octaves. "Oh yes. We've found that synchronized singing improves team coordination during complex maneuvers. Plus, the acoustics in your ship's reactor core are amazing for chorus numbers." "You've been singing in our reactor core?" Zixtal felt a headache building in all four eyes. "Don't worry, we adjusted the containment field harmonics to account for the choreography. Actually improved your power efficiency by 12%. Turns out the reactor really vibes with Broadway classics." The tactical display suddenly filled with what appeared to be show tune lyrics overlaid with combat maneuver diagrams. Chen beamed with pride. "We're calling it Operation Phantom of the Starship. First performance is next week. We've already sold out 3 shows and the merchandise pre-orders are through the roof." Drekthar's hologram turned to Zixtal, all 6 eyes wide with disbelief. "Commander, surely you're not going to—" "I'll send you all VIP tickets," Zixtal interrupted, having long since surrendered to the inevitable. "The premium package includes a zero-G dance lesson and complimentary battle snacks." As the High Counselor's hologram sputtered into silence, Admiral Chen adjusted her rocket-propelled top hat. "Oh, and don't forget to mention the educational programs. We're starting a youth space camp next month. Working title? How to Train Your Dragon Ship." Zixtal looked at his once mighty warship, now festooned with roller coaster tracks, cotton candy clouds, and what appeared to be a giant holographic billboard advertising extreme space tourism, where every scream is heard in vacuum. "Update the military doctrine," he told Vexna. "Add a note. When humans suggest combining warfare with entertainment, just say yes. It's easier than dealing with whatever they'll come up with if you refuse." "Already done, sir. Also," she hesitated, "the Reactor Corps Choir wants to know if you'll be joining them for tonight's rehearsal. They're doing something called Space Hamilton. Somewhere in Earth space, a team of Imagineers, newly transferred from Disney to the Space Force, was designing what they called the ultimate military-grade theme park experience. In orbital stations across the galaxy, alien tourists were booking tickets for what promised to be the most exciting vacation this side of a supernova. And in a secret laboratory, scientists were trying to determine if they could achieve stable fusion using the power of perfectly synchronized jazz hands. The universe, meanwhile, began updating its travel guides to include thrill ratings for military installations. After all, why visit a boring old space station when you could experience authentic combat scenarios with complimentary snacks and a souvenir photo package?